Okay, so to start off with, thank you so much for coming, Snehesh. It's such a privilege, and it's awesome, to have you as our very first podcast guest. Thank you so much.
Pleasure to be here.
So right now, for everyone who obviously doesn't know, Snehesh is here on his first tour of Australia, and his first performance is in Melbourne over here tomorrow. That we are very much looking forward to, and he's going to be accompanied by Mansa Singh Namdari, who's an amazing tabla player based in Melbourne. So we'll be uploading some things in our story and things like that for the performance. Can't wait. We won't ask him what rag he's going to perform. We'll let that come out on the day.
It's not going to be Shri.
Oh, okay. Little inside joke. So as you know, we've started this Instagram reaction channel for Indian classical music, and that's been going really well. People have been responding to that music really, really well, which is really refreshing for us as Indian classical lovers, I guess you could say. I don't want to say musicians. I feel like it's a bit ambitious of us. Anyway, we've been getting lots of recommendations to do a podcast. And then when we heard that you were coming, we thought, okay, we have to do one with Snehesh. The first one has to be with Snehesh. So we actually put a poll out just asking for different questions from the audience themselves. We have questions from the audience.
So we're a bit like beginners, so we got laptop and everything on us at the moment.
It's an iPad.
Sorry, iPad. See how nervous you get with these things? So there are a few sorry.
We're all very nervous.
Yeah. So there are a few audience questions we got. For some reason, you got to put this mic pretty close as well. We got a few audience questions. And the first one is from Gujait. He's asking you, what does a good student look like? His habits, approach to music, and commitment level.
I think habits, commitment level, or what was the other one?
Approach to music.
I feel it depends on the age and the experience level that they have, that they're coming into the practice with. I feel as a kid, kids have that sort of attitude where they're very open to things.
Yeah.
So they come into it with a lot of excitement, especially if they have been exposed to sort of exciting music in their households. So their brains are kind of much more open to new things. They're very excited about things. And the sitar or any sort of instrument, I think, is very exciting to them because it's like a, at the very fundamental level, it's a toy to, kind of play around with.
Yeah.
So to produce sound, I think it's it's an act of enjoyment for. So I've seen that with kids where they have that excitement, but obviously they don't have that level of commitment and the discipline.
Sure.
That's something that I think usually, comes with the support of their support system, their families, their parents. Some kids do have an inborn sort of sense of discipline that they surprise you with. But I feel if you're doing Indian classical music, that sort of support system is I won't say vital, but it's very, very helpful to have. That sort of builds that level of discipline and commitment that's actually very necessary to kind of doing this music at a considerable level, I think. But also, I think, to me, a bit of open-mindedness is sort of a very important part for creativity. Because this music is so creative. There are obviously these boundary factors and what the rag entails, and learning the raga is such a it requires a lot of discipline to actually learn the essence of the raga and a lot of the techniques that are involved, but it's also improvisatory in nature. So coming from that sort of combination of both perspectives is important. So that's what I kind of look for in people who are going into this music. And that's
really interesting because, like, because we were talking about earlier the idea of remote students. Obviously, that's like a pretty new age thing, like online students, and then having like face-to-face students. So both of us are completely pretty much online. Like I met Guruji Pandit Sugata Nag. I met him in 2020 when he came for the Melbourne Festival, and before that, I'd been learning for about 2 years from him, and then obviously I'd been learning from him afterwards as well. And I'd seen some posts in a couple of different places on Facebook and Instagram where there were quite big artists who were saying, you know, online learning is nonsense. You can't learn. You will. It doesn't work. And I like their criticism was not to the students learning online. It was just to the methodology. But me as like a young student took it as like, I will never be able to learn the real music being online. But I had that conversation with Guruji, and he had said like, don't worry about that. If you're doing everything I'm telling you to do, and I'm saying you're doing a good job, you're doing a good job. Like you're learning. And one thing that he said that really stuck with me was the online students, they have to really dive a lot more into, or they have to depend on their resilience for the music. Because you don't have that physical energy that's being transferred from the guru right in front of you. It's like you have that hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours online, and then you're back in your own, your world, studying and doing all sorts of things. So what do you think about like online classes and teaching and versus face to face?
Kailash has already fallen asleep.
That's the dog in the background. That's not us.
It's gonna cut to him soon. I do feel there's with the day and age that we live in right now, I think we have to adapt as humans to the current sort of scenarios that are presented to us. And online sort of any communication is just practical in a lot of settings, and I think it's necessary to adapt to online learning.
You can get the bones. You can get the bones of the music, I guess.
Absolutely.
As a student,
there are certain sort of missing elements that you in online learning that you would get in a more sort of in-person environment. But I feel once you sort of, if you are given the opportunity to get that in-person experience initially a little bit, even, or in certain pockets, that usually is sort of enough. And then the rest of the time, if it's sort of online, I think online learning is enough. There's so many examples. You are such a good example of that, I feel.
Well, thank you so much. I'm gonna remember that.
He won't sleep tonight. The whole night he's gonna be thinking about this thing. But it kind of is like
please repeat yourself. No.
Oh my God.
So I was saying that you are
Sahaj. But in like online learning, we were just discussing before as well that like it kind of makes the student have to do more. Rather than just like teacher forcing you to do this. When you are doing online, especially for myself, and he taught me from like a very early on that like in online you have very limited time and there's money being spent and you can't take it for granted. You have to work behind the scenes on your own a lot. Ask the teacher, ask your guru a lot, which I found was interesting on the online. So you can look into the negative side of things as well, but it won't like give you anything. So you have to take the positives and go forward with it.
I think it's a new sort of thing, right? Online learning is still very new, especially in traditional forms of music, Indian classical, where the whole system of imparting knowledge has been so like one-on-one, in person, living in the same environment. So this is a very new system of learning that's been introduced in Indian classical music. So I think people are still finding out ways to adapt to it. So I think over time, I'm pretty sure that both the teacher and the student will be better equipped to, maximize that sort of efficiency of learning.
That's definitely true. Definitely, yes.
Like since you have been teaching like as well, you must have an online student. How is your experience with it in general?
Oh, they all want to do in person.
All in person.
I think
Well,
you can't
not-
help it, as a student.
Yeah, I think, but I think a lot of people also realize that they're getting enough out of online lessons as well. And yeah, part of that is also just kind of giving them the time to sort of realize that this is a possible way to do it.
Yeah.
But this is also not to not to say that this is not sort of me saying online lessons are enough to replace in person at all, because there's values that you get from in-person lessons that you it's hard to get online. But in terms of actually just having a discipline and learning the material, a lot of it also comes from the student itself, and like sort of having the resilience to bear with it and practice, have a discipline of their own outside of the online lessons. That also plays a part.
Yeah.
But I feel like all of that is part of just sort of adapting to this sort of new means of learning.
You could say, I guess, like a good analogy is like, the electric tanpura versus a live tanpura. It's like nothing competes with a live tanpura,
Right.
but electric tanpura is convenient and it's accessible. If you got it in your pocket, it's it's convenient.
It works.
But if you have the opportunity for a live tanpura, you're gonna take it.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than having no tanpura.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's the truth about classical music as well. Like if you're stuck in Australia and there's no one here to teach you, it's better to have online than nothing at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like a lot of the responsibility is also on the student that's learning, right? That it's up to them to sort of inspire themselves.
Yeah.
I think it's a Zakherji quotation, right?
Yeah.
The teacher doesn't teach, the student learns.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that's very relevant, I feel. But obviously it doesn't work for all sort of situations or all sort of people. People are different, and some need more sort of like for myself, for example, I needed a lot of discipline to be put on by other people to actually do it, because I was a very indisciplined child.
Right.
So I'm very grateful for sort of the discipline that I received or the advice that I received over the years, but I don't know how it would have turned out otherwise. I may have realized it later on and sort of inspired myself later on, but I think it varies from person to person, but I think that responsibility is also on the student as well to kind of have.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that. So we got few questions down the line. So moving on to next question is from Keshav Dogra, and he's asking, what was your favorite audience you have had and why?
I feel like favorite audiences have always been the Bathak concerts that I've done.
Yeah, we agree.
Because you really get the live spontaneous interaction and reaction from the audience. I've played I don't have a favorite one as such, but I've played a lot of nice shows in the US as well. I've played with my dad a few times as well, where the reception has been really good in LA. I remember one house concert. I played solo shows in DC, in Virginia, where there's pockets of people that are really into classical music, and it's just been such a lively environment. The reciprocation of the audience and that kind of builds the energy that way. So Bathaks, I think that's a very sort of blanket answer, but in general, I've enjoyed most of the Bathaks that I've...
Yeah. I mean, Bathaks is nothing like a good Bathak. That's the thing.
Like with the audience thing, like when we had the festival last time here, when Shrutiji was performing, for one of the performance, we couldn't sit right at the front. And we were at the back, and Sahaj and we were saying like, you can sit with your eyes closed and be like this is so meditative, but you have to kind of like show some kind of communication with the artist as well.
Yeah.
React on the right time, not always that wow, but
Right.
to a certain extent, at the right moment, you give them that like, that was so beautiful.
Yeah.
But the front audience was very silent, and you
Right.
could feel in the artist that she was not like showing things that she could show in general. And the second half, one of the, I don't know who, it was a random guy, he said like, could you guys please sit in front because it looks like we are very dull. And we sat in front, and you could see as the audience as well how much we were enjoying her music, and she was smiling, and there was such a good communication and bond between us.
Yeah. And I feel like, obviously it helps if the listener understands the music, so they're able to respond to certain things in a way that maybe the artist expects them to, or things that are aesthetically just very pleasing or beautiful. But I think in general, anyone, even if they're not sort of well versed with the theory, or I feel if it's just good music, because good music has good dynamics, and just in terms of other things as well, musicality. I think, just music, good music has that power to elicit or evoke that sort of reaction from anyone. And that's something that you would get in a bit. Some people are dull.
Okay, this is kind of interesting, maybe controversial. So Nina Patel asks, rank these, and they're like movies and TV shows. So Bandish Bandits, Miva Santrao, Katyar Kajakasli, The Disciple, Bejubaura.
Oh, I've seen like 2 of them.
Okay, so just rank those.
A couple of them are on my list.
Okay.
I have seen. I've seen only the first few episodes of Bandish Bandits.
Okay.
What was the other one? The Disciple.
The Disciple, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really dark one.
Yeah, it is quite dark actually.
It's pretty dark.
Yeah.
I think I really love that film. As a film, it's really, really awesome, and it really goes into the inner workings and the psychology of, and obviously it shows that sort of darker aspects of learning the music and all the physical or the emotional toll that it takes on you. So as a film, I really appreciate The Disciple.
Yeah. Production value is really good.
Yeah, it's really good, and the subject matter is very intriguing and thought provoking.
Yeah, it's quite unique in the way that, like, because whenever you see a movie or a TV show about music, even in the West, it's usually got to do with some kind of competition or like a performance, because the creators of the movie are trying to find how can we make music important to the audience. What's the easiest way to make it important?
Right.
Okay, through competition.
Yeah.
So let's this is the guy. He's the underdog. He has to win the competition in the end. And
it's an easy way to draw people.
Exactly, because it's like you have to get the audience to care.
Yeah.
But the Disciples,
you have to get the audience to root for one side against the other.
Exactly.
Something like that.
So it has to be the evil guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why the Disciples kind of interesting, because it doesn't focus on competition really. It highlights it in a sense. Like
it highlights in a sense because he's kind of he's competing against himself maybe, or the aspirations of his guru and all of that.
Yeah. But when you finish watching it as an Indian classical musician, you do feel a bit like, oh God, is this what the world is?
Is this
is this what I'm doing?
Is it worth it?
Is that me?
Yeah, is that me? It's very personal.
Yeah.
Is this the one you were showing me with the drums, or this is totally different?
You haven't seen The Disciple?
No, I haven't.
Dude, what do you mean you haven't seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay, we'll watch it. It's good. It's good. Like
it's a great family Sunday. Get your popcorns kind of movie.
Alright.
There's one scene where I was like, oh my goodness, what am I looking at?
I know.
It's a music movie? What is that? What are you talking? It sounds like a horror movie.
No. There's one part that's semi-horror.
Psychological thriller.
You don't want to watch it with like family, I guess. Like one part. You can watch the rest of it with family. Yeah.
I like Bandish Bandits as well, but I have some controversies or criticisms of it.
Yeah, critiques. Yeah,
there we go.
The same ones.
But that's just my personal taste.
Yeah.
As a fan of controversy yourself, I would like to hear your thoughts on it. And then
Bandish Bandits.
Yeah.
There we go, on the spot.
I felt because with like a... Oh, have you seen Kacha Kacha Kusli or no?
That's on my list. I've seen some clips of it.
Okay, because that one...
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
The music is amazing,
yeah,
obviously.
That one is like... I think of all those... So, Bandish Bandits, Mi Vasantrao, Kacha Kacha Kusli, The Disciple, and Beju Baura. This might be controversial to say, but my favorite was Kacha Kacha Kusli. Because the music is so full.
Yeah.
And also the story is very full. Like it's very full. The way that the story progresses is very nice. But anyway, coming back to Bandish Bandits, if I was to compare Kachar and Bandish Bandits, Bandish Bandits being a TV show, you'd expect it to have more meat, like more music. But it didn't really have that much music. It had the same sort of song that they repeated, but in different variations, like this person singing it, then another person singing it, and another person singing it. So season 1 didn't have that much, like, to talk about from that standpoint. And I found it a little bit cheesy. Then for season 2, I actually really enjoyed season 2. I have to be honest, like I enjoyed it
because there's more masala.
No, but from a musical perspective, like there was one part. Again, though, the same criticism. They repeated the same song from season 1, but remixed in season 2,
which is a great market or tactic to
sort
of keep your fan base.
Exactly. Like the general fan base is like, yeah, they did it again.
Yeah, they did it again.
Different.
Yeah,
He's
it's repetition.
Exactly. So there's that criticism really, but no, I mean, I think it's really going. It's the graph is going upward for Bandish Bandits. I think
that's great.
Yeah, it's good. I definitely recommend watching season 2.
Yeah, I have to watch it. I've been recommended it a lot. I mean, the only criticism I have, it's not really a criticism, just an observation, I think.
Yeah.
But it's also just based on the very few episodes I've seen. Is that the classical music is presented in a way that it's kind of there's like synths happening in the back, or it's kind of very overproduced.
Oh yeah.
I feel that's a pitfall that I don't know if I don't want to like blame the entire Indian
community.
But there's a inclination towards overproducing things.
Yeah.
And, I feel like really authentic music, sometimes it just sounds very raw. And, but I also understand the reason for it making a little sort of over. It's, obviously the kind of demographics that they're trying to reach out to.
Yeah.
And the objective behind the series itself, I think it makes sense to make certain aesthetic choices. But I've seen the music. My literal spontaneous reaction to a few things when I saw it. This is aside from the story aspect of it, of course, because the story, it's a classic story of two very different kinds of people falling, just kind of tussling with each other initially, but finding common ground and falling in love. And second season probably has more meat in it, masala in it, and drama.
Yeah, I reckon. With Sahaj,
so as a TV show, I think it's very exciting that way, and story perspective.
Yeah.
But from the music perspective, that was my reaction, is that it sounded very overproduced.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way to put it. It was a little overproduced, and I think a little a little bit, but overproduced.
Right.
Like less music, but overproduced.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas Kajak Kajakusli is it's a movie, but it's. I mean, I don't know the actual statistics, but I would say it kind of has more music than the entire first season of Bandish Bandits.
Oh, really?
So it makes you feel like I want to watch music in a TV show. There's no music there.
Yeah.
So there's that. But honestly, Bandish Bandits did really well, numbers wise. It actually got people engaged, with Indian classical music.
That's true.
So you have to give it its due. So I know lots of classical artists, like diehard classical artists, will criticize it and not give it any praise. But praise where praise is due,
Absolutely. Yeah.
So.
It's and that's the thing that's I think a lot of people are doing these days, and they're drawing in crowds that are not familiar with Indian classical music through different. There's a lot of I see a lot of sort of interest in the visual aspect of things as well in production and even in performance. I see that as almost like a trend. But it's kind of drawing in people, and I feel the people who are actually interested in the music will be there for the music.
Yeah.
And it's only doing. I mean, we'll wait to see what the effects of all of that is.
Exactly.
But I think it's right now. It seems like it's drawing in a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, there's always that lag, really. There's always like where it's being exposed. I guess that's the point of advertising, isn't it? It's just building awareness. Like you're making people aware that this thing exists, this product exists. If it's something that looks engaging to them, then they'll go into it. They'll look at it, and they'll educate themselves in that specific thing. So,
Right.
and that's what's been happening with Bandish Bandits has done a great job with that. Pandit Ravi Shankar, he did that.
Of course.
He was like the OG.
The OG.
Yeah. And then now you have Rishab Rikhiram.
Rishab. Yeah.
He's doing a great job. Like, even there's in the classical community, it's controversial to support him or to say he's doing a good job. And I understand why. I get it. Because in India, like we have Indian relatives ourselves, and when they talk about Rishab Rikhiram, they talk about him with so much like, he's amazing, he's the best, he plays so fast. And as a sitarist or someone who's into Indian classical music as well, you're like, okay, he's good, but you haven't heard, Budai Diji or Vilayat Khan Sahab or, Pandit Nikhil Banerjee or any of these like great maestros who didn't get, I guess, the fame as compared to Rishab Rikhiram. But that's not his fault.
No.
That's not his fault.
Yeah. Right.
He's just struck a chord and he's in the world now. And people have seen what he's done.
Yeah.
And I've seen he's taken the Surbahar on stage and he's played Surbahar for 14,000 people. That's pretty awesome. Like, you've got to give him respect for doing that. Like, because other people, I guess they'll criticize and they'll say like, oh, he just does like Bollywood songs and stuff. But he does full classical compositions.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of it's classical performances as well. And
I don't know if he does it in front of like the 14,000 crowd though.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I did see him do a concert in Kolkata, I think, and he put on a pretty good production with some candles and and he played pure classical for maybe 15 minutes or so.
Right.
I mean, what I really like about his playing and his production is just he it sounds really good.
Yeah.
That's
ultimately it, really. Like, it just has to sound good.
It has to sound good. I think that's the most important thing. And in terms of, I mean, all the other aspects that, more sort of classical people will pick up against, I understand that. And I also sort of have, reservations about certain things, but...
which is expected. I have to say that's expected. Like, everyone would.
Right.
It's normal. I think even in the West, like when you see certain guitar players who are from famous bands, the guitar community will be like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. He's just playing a chord and he's making a face. But I mean,
but there's so much value in the impact that it has on people, right? And people's feelings are the important thing here. And if they're resonating with something from something that's very deep, then how can you question that?
Yeah, you can't hate the audience.
Yeah.
The audience hasn't done anything wrong.
Yeah,
so it's kind of interesting, the whole Rishab Rikhiram saga at the moment with the classical community. Like, I'm interested to see what can he do that will make them feel happy. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Because, okay, they're upset about it.
Yeah.
But what can he do to make it better? Like, should he shout out, different artists or say like, this person is better than me, or this person's like, no, he shouldn't have to do that.
Right.
And I will say he's actually doing a good job for the community because he's not performing solo. He's actually bringing on bansuri players and tabla players. Like, I know Devjit Paditani, he played with him pretty recently. So I mean, he's bringing on other artists and supporting other artists as well in what he's doing. So I think good job. It's nice to see. Keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah.
What
and
else?
Everything is a test of time,
exactly.
Ultimately, and and the present moment that we have, we do things and we don't really know how, if the art that we're doing will stand the test of time. I think that's the ultimate sort of test in terms of if you're just looking at things from the art perspective. Go down a few, maybe 100 years and sort of look back and assess the value and the contribution that it actually made to the art form. but in the present moment, there are things that sort of are very attractive, in different ways, and they strike a chord with people, and that's a great thing.
Yeah.
With like leading kind of towards another kind of question is like, since like you have also learned from like a traditional way.
Yeah.
So, but you are in the West as well. You are kind of evolving and learning many things, right? But in classical, we know that there is, you can say, some kind of restrictions and boundaries. So, but how do you know how much boundary to stretch, and when does it become like it's over? Because sometimes you hear musicians, and even great Indian classical musicians, they do, you can say, Western type of music, and it doesn't sound good. Whereas when I listen to yours, I can feel that like he has thought about it properly. It's not he just did it just because he could. You have thought the Western side of it as well. But how do you know what boundary is like you can stretch?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, it's a subjective thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's also I have that question myself a lot. Like, what are the boundaries? Are the boundaries arbitrary? If they're set, how set they are, how arbitrary they are.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is contingent upon like the kind of rules and the values that you learn from your gharana.
Yeah.
And the teacher that you've taught, that you've learned from. I mean, you'll have questions all the time, because a lot of these things don't really defy logic sometimes. They defy, it's not always very clear boundaries in terms of what a rag is, right? It always morphs over time and interpreted differently by different people, different gharanas.
Yeah.
So like, so I think it's a personal choice at the end of the day of where you set your boundary. But I think if a certain raga has sort of morphed over time and exists in a certain way now, presented by a particular gharana, then that means that there's been so much thought that's been put into it over the years, over many years.
Yeah.
And only then the rag exists, So there's value in that.
Yeah. You're right.
So in appreciating that, the limitations of what it is and what it has to offer. So I think if you want to go outside of those boundaries, then I think it's important to know those boundaries first.
Okay, you're right.
And then I feel like it's never a black and white picture.
Yeah.
At least to me. And I think, once those sort of, those boundaries, then I think it becomes easier. I mean, if you can choose not to go outside of those boundaries, but I feel like you can experience things like, I really wish this rag had this one particular phrase in there. It would really bring out the essence more. It's not a major transgression, but a minor thing that maybe is not part of the rag as such. I think that addition of that particular phrase becomes more relevant when you know the initial boundary conditions.
That's such a beautiful way to think, rather than thinking in a way that I want to do something different and I want to stand out. And sometimes not being different doesn't turn out to be right. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, but the obsession of being like out of the box.
I have to be different, or else like I'm almost the same. But the way you said was really beautiful. I liked it.
Yeah, and the Western stuff that's just different. I feel I'm still kind of adhering to the ragas when I'm incorporating. It's just different techniques. But
in that, like, that's where, because obviously fusion is this big thing that everyone talks about, and it's not because it's controversial, it's because everyone's interested by it. It's like this thing that you can kind of see, but it's not clear. So you want to get more, you want to understand it more. And like, just as my humble opinion about fusion, but I think that like if you're an Indian classical artist, as you had just said, you adhere by what you know, the rules and structure that you have in your playing, and then you fill it like around. You can put other things around it. So, for example, like the Anirudh Varma Collective, if you heard their music, their music is beautiful. Like,
Such beautiful.
and essentially what they do is they take like a classical composition and they surround it with like keyboards and backing vocals and stuff like that, which is, I guess, Western concepts. They've applied Western concepts to music, to Indian music, but the root of the music is Indian. So it's kind of like, it's kept to enhance the music rather than it needs to be a 50-50 split of like Indian and Western.
Right. I think that's a very important point, because fusion can be very tricky, right? Especially if you're trying to achieve that 50-50 balance. That's much harder to do than the one, say, Anirudh Varma Collective does, where you kind of the central theme or the central idea is still the Indian compositions, and then you're just kind of using some Western concepts to accentuate or just fill up the surroundings of it.
Maximize the aesthetics, I guess.
Maximize aesthetics.
I mean, yes, maximize, but then it kind of makes it sound like you can't achieve that.
I mean, it becomes a different thing. I mean, you can't really judge it from the perspective of classical music anymore, because imposing like a harmony or chord on top of of a very in any sort of pure Hindustani classical music kind of in some way defeats the purpose of Hindustani classical music.
Right.
Because there's from a harmonic standpoint, I think, I mean, it's kind of weird to look at Hindustani classical music from a harmonic standpoint, because it never kind of evolved that way, I guess, properly. But the from that perspective, I feel like the Indian sort of sensibilities are much more kind of ambiguous. So if you kind of put more harmony on top, then it kind of forces an idea on top of that a little bit, which is great if you're that's the idea that you're going for. But I do agree that fusion is it's hard to do. It's very hard to do.
It's interesting to talk to you about it, because I feel like you're one of the guys who's done it really well. Like you haven't done it. You haven't done it in I guess the easy, like the way that I was saying it was, I guess, the easy first step. But you've done it in like, you've taken like 6 steps. But you've done it in such a beautiful way. So like honestly, a lot of respect. And
100%,
we both absolutely love where you've taken the music.
Oh, thank you. Like you mean in terms of my Hindustani classical performance?
No, like I mean that as well.
The fusion.
The Hindustani stuff, like we're obviously big fans. We were talking about, we just went shopping for some basmati rice. My mom, she made us go get some rice on the way. So it made us late, but we were talking
we took him as well. We're so informal, and
we made him pay.
I got an experience of Australian supermarkets.
You did, No, but over there we were talking about a recent post on Instagram of Rag Bahar in Chapta. Amazing. So beautiful. So beautiful. Yeah. But I was making a comment about the fusion, like your fusion stuff. Would you call it fusion, or would you?
Isn't it? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I guess so.
Fusion is a very blanket statement.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. Yeah. I guess it's got a bit of a bad rap, I guess, maybe. But no, I would say the stuff that you produce is amazing. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I try. It's very tricky.
It's
very, very tricky. Easy to fall into the traps of having it sound very cheesy, I think. So I think kind of making that sort of balance between the different elements that you're fusing, it's very challenging.
Right.
One of the things that I find like very, as a listener, I'm like learning a little bit. I'm nobody to speak, but you can say as an audience, I see like such a great musicians in terms of Indian classical, and they try fusion, and it just, I can't bear listening to it. And I always ask him like, why does this happen?
Yeah.
How is this possible that in your mind in Indian classical, you perform phrases that are like, this is so beautiful. And then you turn into fusion as if it's like totally different person.
Yeah.
Which I find like really interesting, that how is it that aesthetics is so, where is it now suddenly?
Yeah, I think you just have to know what you're doing at the end of the day. Yeah, because especially from what I've learned, if you're trying to fuse, say, Indian classical music with, say, Western sensibilities, some harmony, for example. I feel like the Hindustani classical music we do is super solo, right?
Yeah.
So there's one melody instrument, maybe one or two main sort of melody instrument, and then a percussion instrument.
Yeah.
Right. So the idea of kind of having many people have distributed responsibility from a musical point of view is probably not as relevant, maybe, as composed to, say, like a symphony orchestra, for example, where you have like all these different sections, a brass section, a string section, and even within those individual sections there are individual roles that everyone is playing. Right. So from an arrangement point of view, when you're mixing in very different instruments and elements in your music, you kind of have to know what the roles of each of those instruments is. You know, and it's not just then it stops being like, oh, the sitar is like the main instrument. Then it kind of becomes everyone is part of the team. Everyone has a voice.
Yeah.
You know, a friend of mine kind of pointed that out to me in reflection of one of my compositions. A friend of mine who I'm performing with, actually, during this Australian tour. So Jules, so that's a very interesting perspective to have, and that I think requires knowledge of that other tradition. You know, so only then I think you'll be able to come to terms with how to fuse different languages together.
Yeah, interesting.
Would you say to somewhat extent that you would have to understand their music and how they approach things as well?
I think so. Yeah. Absolutely. I think a certain degree of studying it, understanding it from that perspective is important. Unless you have people who are doing it for you. Then you can just show up, do your thing, and the other person kind of also does it. But I think in general, if everyone sort of has knowledge of the different traditions that they're fusing, I think it results in something more very organic, I think, that blends very organically together.
Yeah, right. That's a good point. So the next area, this might be a little bit, I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say controversial.
Another one.
But no, it's
Bring out the controversy.
I guess it's a little bit more of a, I mean, I like to think about it as optimistic. Because it's very common for us to hear, like, we're around the same age. I think you're a year older than me.
How old are you?
I'm 28.
Oh, yeah, 29.
Oh, yeah, 29.
Cool.
Okay.
Uncles to me.
Uncles. These guys like 24, 23.
I'm 17.
17. No,
You look very wise for your age.
It's going to ring in my head the whole night. I'm wise. No, I'm 23. I'm 23.
23.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Anyways, continue.
So, being young, we always hear I guess the older generation talking about how Indian classical music is dying, the audience is fading, people they don't want to hear it anymore, and all these things. Like it's got a very pessimistic outlook on music. But they say, oh, if you listen to the recordings of Ustad Vilayat Khan Sahab or Ustad Emajan Thirakwa Tabla, or many other artists, they say like they were all the greats, and when they passed, it was kind of the end. Like they have this insinuation that like when those legends had passed, the music had kind of stopped. And then you have this idea that like these legends are gone, the music is fading, everything's dying. But surely those legends of those days must have thought the same thing about their legends.
Yeah.
And then their legends must have thought the same thing about their legends.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of like with the Olympics as well, right? Like everyone keeps breaking the world record.
Right.
Like it just keeps being broken.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So the latest, I think, was Usain Bolt, or someone beating that for the 100-meter race.
Yeah. Someone beat that?
Did they?
9 minutes 58 seconds?
9 minutes and 100. I could beat that.
9 seconds 58 milliseconds.
You couldn't lift the carpet by yourself today. You know that? You can't do those stuff. You're old now.
9 minutes for 100 meter race.
9 minutes for 100 meters. That's wild. But no, the fact that like as an example, the Olympic records keep being broken since the Olympics has been existing, and obviously that's a demonstration of physical ability. It's not a demonstration of aesthetic ability. So you can't have the same comparison with music. But you can kind of take the same logic and say that, well, music will continue to evolve, and there will be people who are able to bring out, I wouldn't say the equal aesthetic quality as the old masters. I wouldn't say that, but I would say that they would be able to bring something comparably equivalent, I guess you could say, in the sense that they're still able to produce amazing music that will be appreciated and looked at with awe by the generations to come as well. So I'm looking for someone to say like, no, there are lots of people who are around our age, maybe a little bit older, and who are doing great things for music, and there will be more into the future. I just want to hear people say stuff like that, like be a bit.
Yeah, no, there's already great music out there right now that's happening every single day. I think.
Can you name a few? Who are your favorite like Indian classical musicians now, like our generation?
Oh my God, I don't want to leave any names out. But I really love what Niladri Kumar is doing. I think he's a great example of someone who transgresses a lot of boundaries. But I think I think his sensibilities are very awesome. And I feel, it's a very common thing, right? Where you kind of judge the present with the past.
True.
According to the past, it's every generation is going to do the same thing. So it's a story repeating all the time. But I think the music and art is always a reflection of the times you're living in.
True.
So for me at least, it's not a question of like this music of this time period was better than this one. I think there's always going to be good music in every single generation. But it's always going to be a reflection of the times we live in.
True.
So you can't really always compare music of the present with the music of the past, because that's a completely different time.
The culture has changed.
Also the lifestyle as well.
Lifestyle has changed.
I can't imagine now sitting 10 hours doing riyaz.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the food it's so crazy right now.
I'm sure there are people who do it, and mad props 100%. To them.
100%. Respect.
It's actually, I would say it's even more respect than the guys who did it in the past, because they've got like Instagram and Facebook and YouTube like right there. If you can put that down and just practice for 10 hours, like respect.
There must be someone out there.
That's discipline. Actually, they used to say, you know how they used to say that you put the candle on and you practice until the candle goes all the way down.
Oh yeah.
So there were some people talking about that, and then they were saying, but candle technology has evolved.
Now you gotta use your phone. 100% charged to 0% charged.
You put the torch on, you put it upside down, and you play until it dies.
I was about to ask the same thing when we were talking about Bandage Bandits, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking like they have a scene there. So someone asked me like, is this real? And I had no answer to it. So I wanted to ask you before, but it slipped out of my mind.
It's called Chilla?
No.
What's it called?
The candle riyaz.
Oh, okay.
Is it true? Like, was it traditionally done before?
I mean, I haven't witnessed it myself, but I believe what my gurus have told me. There's accounts of Vilayat Khan kind of practicing until the candle sort of went off.
Wow.
So I think that's. I mean, I have only heard Vilayat Khan's association with it so far, but I'm sure there are other people who've also. No, I mean, people like Vilayat Khan, they were, like the amount of dedication they've put into the art, it's mind-boggling.
It's incredible.
I mean, it's easy to say that was the only thing they were doing.
True.
There are, maybe there are sort of privileges that they had that afforded them that capacity to do it. Like they didn't have to probably do other sort of household mundane things as much that took up a lot of their times. But the amount of just the time that they had and how they used that time, it's just inspiration. It's just pure inspiration.
Definitely.
Regardless of that as well, like even the mind behind it, the thoughts behind it, it's How do you? Like, I always ask this. Like, does creation come from like being creative? Does it come from like just practicing 10 hours, or is it something gifted to you, or can it be taught?
Yeah.
That's one of the things that always goes in my head. Even like you were saying about Vilay Khan Saab, like he's, you can say he has been practicing for a long time, but what about the creative mind? Does it just come from non-stop riyaz?
I mean, it comes from different places, I think. You can get creative even if you haven't touched a sitar for a week. But you can also find creativity from after only having played or practiced for like 4 hours into your practice session.
Yeah.
Creativity is one of those things that, you know, it's very... what is the word for it? Like, what is the source of creativity? We don't really know.
Yeah.
You know,
And
it kind
AI
of
these days, I think.
Huh?
AI. No.
AI is the new creative these days. It kind of channels through you, right? And it just comes to you whenever it has to. Like,
Yeah.
Was
as
it
long
unconscious?
as you're able to. Sorry?
Unconscious mind or something?
Yeah, it's
Comes
possible.
from unconscious.
You're going deep into Carl Jung or.
Carl Jung, yeah.
I'm really not smart enough to talk, whereas he is smart with those psychology and AI. I'm a bit like when you guys were talking in the car, I was like, these guys are smart. I need to level up or something. And when you and Uncle Mark were talking, his dad, when you were talking, I was like, oh my god, I'm far behind. Like, need to catch up with these guys. Like, I find musicians like not most, I don't know, whoever I've like seen or met, they're musicians, but they're very smart. They think so properly. Like Pandit Suresh Tawakar, when I watch his interview, I feel like, oh, he's thought about it so well.
Yeah.
Like Pandit Ramdas Palsale, when we were talking to him, I felt like he's not just musician, he is smart, really intellectual guy as well.
Yeah.
Well, they do say... Sorry, you were going to say something.
Yeah, with enough existential crisis and spending time in life, I think you get to those questions eventually.
Definitely. But it's actually very interesting because every single musician that we've met of a very high quality, the musicians who are very high quality, they all have this clear and sharp intelligence. All the ones that I've met and spoken to, they all have very sharp intelligence. And it's very interesting to see because obviously musical ability and the ability to play an instrument is a proxy for intelligence. Like you can see, because for you to be able to play sitar, for example, you have to understand all sorts of permutations and combinations that can happen. And then it has to trigger new ideas in your mind as well of like, okay, if I can do this harakat from here because of this distance in the notes, then I should be able to replicate that on another fret that has the same distance notes in the same rag. So, and then you can be like, oh, maybe I can do it in this rag then as well because of these things. So I know this is a little bit specific to sitar for the general audience, but we have the mic, so what are you going to do? So, but
you're going to get cancelled or something.
You can scroll to the next reel. Scroll down.
Scroll. Anyway, but because of that, you can see that it makes sense that the people who are very like excellent at executing those particular instruments have a really deep intelligence. So as he was saying, Pandit Suresh Tawakar, his mind is so sharp and the way that he talks about things is very clear. And there is such an aesthetic quality to even what he says.
Absolutely.
Like I can watch his Betak interview with Pandit Arvind Parekh like on repeat. That's two of my... There's three of them now, but the first two I could just watch them on repeat. And it's the same with, Mehtab Ali Niazi as well. I really love talking to him. Yourself. Abhishek Borkar. Pandit Ramdas Palsale ji. Yeah, many like this.
Yeah, I think the music itself lends itself to that kind of intelligence a little bit, right? Because it really demands it.
Yeah, true.
I think, as opposed to kind of just, rata hua. Is what just kind of playing things that are written down for you and just playing them, and that's your job. But this really forces you to expand your thinking. So I think that probably has an effect on your intelligence.
True. That's very interesting.
Did you had something you had read about that, right? With music and intelligence. Something? No?
Nothing's coming to mind at the moment.
No, but yeah, I remember he talks about like intelligence and psychology so much. But yeah, I thought he had something.
Oh,
in
okay.
mind.
I think I know what you're talking about.
I mean, if you, from a neuroscience perspective, I
Yeah.
mean, there's been research that's done, right? Where, I mean, there are certain areas of your brain
That are activated.
that are activated.
But they do say, sorry, you probably know more because you were in the area.
No, I've been out of it for a long time, so I've also forgotten. My memory apparently is not that great.
So,
But for example,
Yeah.
certain parts of your brain are associated with, your ability to exercise inhibition, for example.
okay.
Oh.
Mhm.
So in some people, that sort of is such that they're just very likely to be more of a risk taker. They're less inhibited to do things.
Mm.
So it also varies from person to person. So from a physiological level, it may be, that they're kind of predestined to be a certain way.
Mm.
Not sure. But there's obviously things that you also learn, and culture, behaviorally speaking, like over time, by associating yourself with other people who are doing that as well. Constantly like thinking of new ideas.
Yeah.
So being in that environment also plays sort of that important role, as opposed to being like in a completely like an island, for example.
Yeah.
And all by yourself. I think the environment also plays a big role in that sort of intelligence that we're talking about.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah.
Because I think when we were talking about like parts of the brain that are activated, I think from memory, if I'm wrong, then we just won't include this part. But let's see. But
We'll fact check afterwards.
yeah, I'll probably fact check. Yeah, see how tired I am with the newborn. But anyway, from memory, there was this American violinist who was part of some trials where they did a few fMRIs on his brain while he was playing the violin.
Right.
And they did a couple of different tests. I think one was they got him to think about music, and it activated a particular part of the brain, the memory part, the musical part, because he was experiencing the music in his brain. Then they got one where they got him to read sheet music, and it activated obviously the sight, language, because he was comprehending a language.
Yeah.
The musical part, because he was able to imagine the music.
Yeah.
And then they got him to play. So play and read and do everything. And it activated every single part of the brain. Like the entire brain was active.
Right.
By physically playing the instrument. And it's because it's like there's your motor functions are in play. You're listening to, enjoying the music. Your brain is actively participating in producing the music. So there's all these things that are happening that's involved in executing music on an instrument.
Yeah.
And I think there was arguments to say that would support brain health into your age. Like, so as you age, you're able to still comprehend things and still understand things and communicate very more clearly.
Right.
Because your entire brain is being exercised.
Is being exercised. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, I heard that and it stuck with me because it was a cool thing. And also it makes you feel
Joshua
good.
Bell who did that experiment?
I don't remember the name, honestly.
I will look it up later.
Yeah, we'll have to find it. Yeah. But yeah, that was an amazing thing to learn. So for, another reason to play an instrument if you want to play one.
Yeah.
Totally. And now there's been research that's been done on Alzheimer's patients, right?
Oh, wow.
Because it kind of rewires a lot of the brain, just playing music, even probably listening to music. But I think actively engaging in the process of making music kind of as a way of just making alive certain connections in your brain that have become dormant.
Oh, wow.
Due to disease, maybe. So there's active research that's been done right now. So
Wow.
So yeah, in general, the effects of music being just
Yeah.
so
Just to think about it, what could it be? Like, how is it happening that's solving by some sound coming in your ears? That's really like fascinating.
yeah. I mean, just sound coming in and you processing it is, I guess, just one aspect of it. But then when you're also actively engaging in and making the music, for example, then as you said, that also engages other parts of your brain. And
Yeah.
the entire process of listening, practicing, thinking, that kind of involves the entirety of the brain.
Yeah. Yeah. That was an amazing find, actually, to see that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're all intelligent people on this couch.
Yeah.
No.
No, but it's actually very interesting to see because, I mean, maybe you've had this as well, but me, like when I started playing music, every now and then I have this thought of like, why do I care about music? Like, like why do I care? You know, because it's very easy to say, okay, why do I care about finance? Because you want to stay alive, you want to have resources for your family, you want to do these things. It's very easy to answer that question. But when you say, why do I care about music? And your primary answer was like, I don't need a reason. I just really love it. And I want to play and I want to listen to music.
Yeah.
So you don't need a reason. But the logical part of your brain is just like, yeah, but just give me a reason just so I feel good. You know? Just give me a reason, you know? So when
survival, isn't it? Survival.
Yeah, exactly. I guess it is part of your survival because it's like, if you're not, I guess if the dopamine in your mind isn't satisfied in some way, you feel very anxious.
Yeah.
But then now with these days, with all sorts of TikTok and Instagram and everything, there's all sorts of comedy available, all sorts of things, games on your phone. So you can get dopamine hits from all those things.
Yeah.
But the hit that you feel from music, listening to or playing your own music, it's just something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you could say that in the West, many people have been asking those questions. So you'll always have people who, like yourself, you do music, but then you're into neuroscience and psychology because you're like, maybe there's a part of, because this is what it was for me. It was in my mind of like, I want to know why. Like, what in my brain is causing me to like music, and why isn't this person liking music? We're both humans. We've both got brains.
Yeah.
Why isn't this person liking the same thing that I'm liking? And not to say like this person should like it, but it's like I can find commonalities. At what point do those commonalities break away? Like both of us like cello. Both of us like many different cello pieces. But all of a sudden you don't like this rag, but I like this rag.
It's like, probably triggering a past memory, right?
Oh yeah, it could be, yeah.
Or your past sort of biases. So it's reaffirming your biases. And you're like, I guess I'm not an expert in psychology at all, but you're probably more of an expert, so maybe you can verify. But I mean, so much of what we do or appreciate is based on, repeated experiences, right? So the more times we listen to something, the more we start liking it. Do you guys feel that?
I think to an extent, yes. To an extent. Because I do, I get sick of things, but then when I revisit it later on, when I revisit it later on, I get like totally enamored by it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, getting sick of it after listening to it could also be just like fatigue from exercising your same sort of muscles over and over again. Or
it's predictability as well. Like, because you've heard it so many times.
Predictability is very satisfying to an extent.
Yeah, and that's why Indian classical music is so good, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's so engaging because it's like, it's the perfect balance between predictable but chaotic.
Right.
Because you kind of know what's going to happen, but you also don't really know.
Swim in chaotic waters, but throw in a bit of predictability once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. But that's why, like, for example, a slightly controversial topic, Chakra Tihais. If the first chakra though lands on some, and you know the rest of them are going to land on some. For me personally, I'm just like, okay,
get over it.
What's next?
10 seconds, let's go. You know, I know what's going to happen. You know, but if the first one lands somewhere else, like I don't know, 12 or something or 13, and you're like, okay, how is this gonna land? And then they find another way to land. It's like it's another form of satisfaction. Like again, Pandit Thorka does this. You don't know it's gonna land on some until the very last palla.
Yeah, but I think there's some chakradhars that is. I think that really speaks to the beauty of the composition itself. As to like, so like the first palla fell on the place it should have, and then you know that it's probably the eventual sum is going to be reached, but then like the second palla, for example, goes really well with the beat. Like it's a little bit misaligned.
The syncopation or something.
The syncopation is very interesting.
Yes.
So those are other sort of aspects that you then kind of look into. But there are also ones that are kind of don't do that or don't have that sort of aesthetic strength. So then it's kind of like boring.
Yeah,
I guess. But
True.
I do agree with that. Yeah, I get that same feeling with a lot of chakradhars.
Yeah, that's not specific to just. Like that's not specific to tabla. That's just across the board.
Across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's I think there's also like a sort of controversial topic maybe, But there's I see a lot of people trying to like make all these like really elaborate tihais.
Yeah.
I feel the tihais can sound really spectacular if it's composed well, of course. But sometimes they just sound very clunky to me, very forced.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of like a very like high a crescendo.
Yeah.
Trying to force a crescendo.
Yeah.
In there somewhere
yeah.
for some maybe appreciation or impact.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. But I do that myself sometimes, but I try to like kind of also
spice it up.
Make sure, spice it up a bit, like change it, make it a little sort of.
It doesn't take a lot to spice it up. You know, it doesn't really take a lot. Like, I mean,
right?
Yeah, if you had a very like a stock standard tihai, and then you just adjust the gaps a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Minor changes can make a big difference.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I kind of like the idea of like not really, and this is, I mean, not to sound pretentious or anything, but I think, you know, the where I find the fascination to be is like you knowing the interval, the space time well enough that you can fill that space up with whatever you want to.
Yep.
I think that's what I try to achieve, at least in my music. So in that way that obviously I'm using certain patterns when I'm trying to attempt, say, a tihai or something.
Yeah.
But it's not super well composed or anything, because there's so much, I don't know, enjoyment, fascination that I find in
doing them live
and just not getting it right, but maybe you attempt it another time and you get it right. But I think having that sort of sense of time really helps you, because you can sort of structure your tihai in real time in a way so as to it fits.
Yeah.
Or, you know, there's also beauty in sort of the first two pallas being kind of similar, but then you realize there's extra amount of time for the third palla. So you kind of make very little adjustments and then you land. So you can, there's no basis for really judging a tihai based on like, not all the pallas weren't the same, so it's not a tihai.
Exactly. Yeah.
As long as it has a very sort of that unpredictable or that excitement, I think that's what is more important.
Like spontaneity, I think. Like as an example,
Yeah.
when I was watching like Abhishek Borgaji, I think the thing I liked about his playing was it's not like he has thought about it before and he's coming in. It's spontaneous. The tihais are coming out of nowhere that he hasn't even thought himself it's coming in. When the artist is feeling the joy, that it's coming, then you feel joy because it's very unpredictable. It's not like you know from it's coming from 10 kilometers down the road. It's like it's came in and there's a joy behind it.
Absolutely. And a lot of these patterns just kind of like come to you. I mean, if you've really just... if you've attempted these, especially the smaller ones, for example, if you've played them, you know, a bunch of times during your practice in other programs, you don't really have to plan them.
It just
anymore. It just kind of comes to you. You listen to a particular beat, a particular sound from somewhere, and that triggers that that tihai, and it just lands. And you've done it enough times to not fail. You know? But the bigger ones is more challenging, of course, when you're trying to compose a big tihai on the spot. That's where you kind of have to use some other...
a bit of math.
A bit of forward thinking.
Yes. Yeah.
It like talking about like tihais and everything. What about, has it ever happened to you or occurred to you that you're performing and something didn't work out right, a performance that was not right? Have you ever had that before? It sticks to you way more, right?
That's actually one of the questions. So that was one of my questions, which is which is
Sahaj performed bad.
What was your?
I'm gonna stay up all night thinking about it.
Just you don't have to mull on it because I think damaging. But your worst performance and your best performance. I mean, you already asked the best one. But like your. Okay. Fine. The experience of like your worst one.
Worst, best. Which one first? Worst.
Yeah, let's go with worst because then you can have best for
You
dessert.
can enjoy the best.
You can best
So it doesn't stick in your mind. You know, you're going somewhere to dinner and it's like, oh, the performance.
I know. You don't want that.
Yeah.
Worst is easy to answer. I think it was in SRA, and I was a kid also. I don't know. I was a teenager, and I was going through a lot of emotions. I was not in the right headspace to play, and I think there was a lot of the gurus were also there. I think maybe it was a gradation test. Or they have those at SRA is the Sangeet Research Academy in Kolkata, and I think I played Bageshri, which is one of my favorite ragas.
Yeah.
But I performed just horrendously.
Oh.
It was
just something that happened. Like it just.
I think I just wasn't in the right headspace, and I don't think I loved. In that moment, I was loving playing, basically. I didn't have enough love for the music. And so I was very apathetic towards it. And so that naturally reflected in my playing.
Yeah, right.
Would you say it was more like a technical kind of a problem that you had, or it was more like
that's an interesting one.
You couldn't feel the rag?
That has happened where the technical problems, a mic or something, that sort of really puts you in a bad place.
Yeah.
But this was purely me.
Right.
This particular instance was just me.
It was
Right.
Yeah.
All the sound equipment were functioning properly.
Okay.
I feel bad for whoever was accompanying me.
Oh no.
But yeah, I think I just wasn't in the right. So as you can see, there's so many different things that play into what makes a good performance, right? It's your whole mindset, I think, the mood that you're coming into it with, and also factors that are beyond your ability to control, like sound, audience, all of those things. But my worst probably was that. Had nothing to do with the external factors. It was just me.
All right.
And what did you think you learned from that? Like, what did you pick up from that afterwards? Did it have an impact on your music?
I picked up a lot of criticism. Not really.
Okay.
Because I knew that I was not in the right headspace.
Okay.
So I wasn't. It wasn't baffling to me that why did this happen?
Okay.
So I mean, I'm thankfully, I'm much more in love with the music now than I was back then in that moment. Yeah.
Right. Wow.
That's great. Now we gotta hear the best.
Best concert.
Best doesn't sound right. Like the one that you love, that you are like,
you really enjoyed,
that you enjoyed performing.
Yeah, I think I really enjoyed. I mean, there's a lot of solo ones I've played that I've really enjoyed playing, and they've come in very different. The favorite one is very hard to put. Yeah, you've probably learned by now that I don't single out experiences. But I can give the last concert I played in America, for example, that was to an audience that had no clue about Indian classical music.
Wow.
It was like a church in the middle of nowhere in New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
And it was all people who were just enthusiastic about music, but coming into it with no knowledge of any Hindustani classical music. So I played, and it was a very enjoyable experience, and just the response that I got from, so in some ways that the response I get from people who are not familiar with the music, I find that very gratifying. Also. And because if they have no idea of what the music entails, but despite that they have a transcendental experience to it, then that speaks volumes of the music itself.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So I feel very, I feel proud of representing the music. Because it has so much.
That's actually a big topic, and it's an area for some reason people get confused by, or people who are not in the music get a little bit confused by, because when we talk about it, like I usually say, when I first heard sitar, I really did not like it live. And the reason I didn't like it wasn't because of the instrument, it wasn't because of the music, it was because of the person playing. Like now in retrospect, seeing, obviously won't name the person. It's just like, it's not anyone famous or anything. It's just someone we know. But they were sort of doing whatever, just anything on the instrument. The fact that you can bend the string, like, oh, cool, you know, anything. But it wasn't anything musical. So it actually really badly represented the music to me and all my friends, because we were all like, that was weird.
Right.
Like I would never listen to that music, or, you know. Then many, many, many years later, like I heard like different musicians, Pandit Budayati Mukherjee primarily, and I started like listening to that and fell in love with that, and then started listening to music, like sitar, and then started playing myself. But the issue was, it was like going from not a neutral position, from a negative position, then going neutral,
yourself up there.
Because I had that experience listening to someone who wasn't good, but they loved the music so much, which is good for them, but you have a responsibility to represent the music in the right way. You know, and I feel like as musicians, if we remember that when you're going and performing for audiences who don't know anything, you need to have that in mind. Like, I have a responsibility.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then it's easy to fall into the trap of like, oh, I'm just trying to impress these people. I'll just sort of do these very flashy things. Play a bunch of fast dance. Fast dance are great if you can execute them well and very well thought out, I guess. But that's not the important thing, I feel. It's representing the music for what the power that it has exists for a reason, right?
Exactly. And
so representing that authentically is
it's a big responsibility.
It's a responsibility, and eventually I think that also has maximum potential to impress.
Definitely. Yeah.
You know, because if you can impress a few people with your technical abilities and gimmicks and stuff, but overall the sort of the psychological or emotional sort of fulfillment, the wholesome sort of feeling that you can get, I think comes from if you represent the music for what it is, because that's where like the meat of it is anyway.
You know? Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, like, technicality is like, you should be able to do things, but sometimes it's like you kind of have to like look into the aesthetic side of it as well. And the way I found out this was, I was with my friends out in uni, and I was listening to Indian classic, and they said, what are we listening on? I just gave my headphone to them, then they said like, it sounds good, but there was a vocal, and they said like, but it sounds like someone is like strangling him, like why is it that? And my answer was like, how do I reply to this now? And do I say it's technically wow,
right,
but aesthetically they are trying to listen to music. It doesn't sound good. So I wanted to ask you this question, like kind of a bit of controversy as well, but like, keeping your traditional values aside, as a musician, how do you think about, like, especially in vocals, you can do gamuks which are beautiful, but there are also gamuks which are like so heavy gamuks that they are not even in tune. It's like off. What do you think about it in general? What do you ever thought about it?
I mean, if it's off, no?
Also, like the heavy gamuks.
But I mean, there's different. I mean, there are gamuks that sound good because of a little bit of offness, also, right? And there's that aspect. There's also the aspect of like what's sort of more practical to do on a particular instrument. So taking all of that into consideration, I think eventually, off is off, I feel. And I think but I feel it's gamak especially is such a it's such a weird word. It's just it's such an interesting technique, right? That
it's quite niche. It's very niche, I guess you could say.
It's so heavy, as you said, and I can totally see how it can be so jarring to someone who's never heard it before. You know, and but that doesn't necessarily mean it's off. You know, and off is from that perspective becomes a question of cultural significance.
Because good gamak is like amazing. It's really nice.
You feel it like,
But even there, like if you, I mean, this might be going a bit too deep again into classical music, but the progression of how, I guess, this is just a theory of how I think gamak came into existence. It's just a theory. So, if you had like Drupad, you had the original just sa, sur, and then you had, the rest of the notes, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa, all of them, and they had this basis of like no vibrato. You just stay on the note,
Right.
and you focus on the note, sur, sa, na, and all. And then you have composition. They create composition. Then it goes into khayal. Khayal involves more movement. Then after khayal, they have variations of the composition in khayal using the words.
Yeah.
Then you'll go out of words, you do akar. And then very gradually, you can see the progression of how it led to gamak being formed. Like tans happening, tans, then eventually gamak starts.
Yeah.
If you don't have any of that context before you all of a sudden listen to gamak,
Yes.
it might be a shock to you, especially as a foreign listener. If you've never heard the music before,
Right.
you'll be like, wow, this is totally out of nowhere. And if you look at the overall musical sphere, like the world of music, Kirvani exists in pretty much almost all the cultures in the world. Kirvani exists like pretty much everywhere. Yeah, harmonic minor. So that exists everywhere, but the expression of Kirvani in Hindustani classical music involves gamak. Gamak doesn't really exist anywhere else, does it?
Yeah.
Does it?
I mean, let's not count it off.
Yeah.
There's something.
Yeah, surely there's something. Maybe we just don't know.
yeah.
But I guess you could say that gamak is quite specific and unique to Indian classical music.
Yeah.
And because Kirvani was discovered by all these different cultures individually, it wasn't like discovered by one and then given to others.
Yeah.
So you'd think that the possibility of gamak would also be explored by other cultures, but not accepted.
Yeah.
But in Hindustani music and even Carnatic music to that extent, it was accepted and it was propagated and people wanted to develop it more and more.
Yeah.
So it's a taste of
Right.
Could be.
I mean, I can't speak for other musical traditions because I don't have enough knowledge. But in Indian music, I mean, as the focus has always been on melody, right, primarily.
Yeah.
And so it would make sense that it's developed in a way so as to find all the different ways that you can traverse between notes.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so ornamentations are rich vocabulary.
Yeah.
Because there's been a primary focus on just the melodic aspect, and not in terms of, say, for example, harmony, maybe. And in general, I think Indian music has focused a lot on melody. Just the music itself has focused on melody, a lot, right? I mean, rhythm also, of course, parallelly.
Yeah.
But just melody-wise, there's been so much thought and discovery that's been made, so it makes sense that gamaks eventually came into existence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and to be fair, like heavy gamak has its place in like Miyaki Malhar or Malhara, Kannada. It has its place.
Yeah.
Like if you're talking about this really, really heavy gamak.
But still, that heaviness has its beauty upon who is doing it as well.
Yeah.
Like the same amount of gamaks and even more like heavy. You hear it and it's like, you feel it like, that's beautiful. But sometimes it's just like, and that day happened to be somehow the guy was listening to the wrong one. It felt like I had to think like, what do I say to the person? That made me think like, what do I say?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also maybe like a cultural thing, perhaps. Just that sort of expression, that powerful expression, maybe a cultural phenomenon, and it might not be super, it may not be like the vocabulary of expression in some other cultures. Maybe they're on the softer side, perhaps. The language may be softer in general. Some languages are, they sound more loud, I guess, than others. So it could also be a language sort of thing. And there's so much variations between cultures in terms of how we do vocalizations, language.
True. Too many factors.
Too many factors. And
even in India alone, like the expression of like in Bengali, for example, we were talking in the car. The way Bengali sounds, as compared to how Marathi sounds,
right?
It's such a wide difference. Like Bengali has a lot more round sounds, and Marathi has like sharper sounds. So it's interesting. For context, I'm Maharashtrian, and he's Bengali.
Yeah, I'm Nepalese. I'm nowhere nearby.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean that's an interesting topic.
Yeah.
Okay, rapid fire questions.
Go for it.
Okay, your top 3 artists in your generation of Indian classical music.
Pratik Srivastav. Sorry, not rapid anymore. In my generation. Okay, I'm just like Mehtab. I like Mehtab stuff a lot.
Nice.
Who else? Gotta name a tabla player. Yashwant Bhai.
Nice.
Mm.
Nice. Agreed. 3 unsung heroes of Indian classical music.
Huh. Past or old, past or present, whatever
Any.
it is.
Any. Whichever you feel.
Unsung heroes.
That's quite a hard one, actually.
Yeah.
That one.
It makes
Yeah,
you
like
think,
what
right?
constitutes as unsung?
Exactly.
You know, because a lot of musicians were
Yeah.
sort of in the corner, but
Mhm.
they're appreciated so much by
True.
like a niche
The connoisseurs
audience
or yeah,
or
exactly,
so.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly.
So in some respects, Vilayat Khan is an unsung hero.
True, true. Depends on how famous you go. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Balaram Pathak.
Oh, okay.
It was sitar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard
Had
his
some
name.
really interesting ideas.
You learn something new every day. Okay, Balaram Pathak.
One. Yeah, I'll go for one for now. Oh, you said 3.
3. One more. We just need one more.
One more. Okay. Some hero. No, I'll answer this later.
Sure.
All right.
After the
No
intro.
problem.
If not sitar, which instrument?
Oh, Sarod.
Wow.
Same.
Well,
same.
in Indian classical, probably Sarod.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But in general, oh man, it's hard to choose. I was gonna go for bass guitar
Okay.
or
nice.
double bass or something like that.
Wow.
Oh, double bass is awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's hard
I
to
play a
carry
little bit
on.
of electric bass, but double bass I've always wanted to try. I think double bass probably,
Mhm.
or cello or something.
Wow.
like that.
Dude, we
That's
got the
such
same. Like, I had the same thing. So, like, for
Really?
me, in Indian classical, it would be sarod.
Yeah.
In Western, it would be cello.
Wow.
Wow.
It was the same thing.
Like mine's.
Favorite Indian classical movie or TV show?
I haven't watched enough. I feel like the best ones that I would really like, I haven't watched yet.
Right. We'll leave that for when you watch it then, maybe.
Yeah.
You can comment down.
There's
one.
not many, is there? Among the 5, those are the.
I think that I couldn't think of any more than those five.
No.
If I had to choose between the ones I've seen, it'd probably be The Disciple.
The Disciple. Yeah,
Wow,
nice.
I have to see what it is.
Yeah, it's good. Rag or raga?
Depends on my mood.
Okay. Let's see what you say tomorrow.
Raga is more.
Formal? Did you say?
I don't know if it has a more. It's more graceful in some ways.
okay.
Some sense.
Mhm.
Rag is more. I associate rag with Bengali. Like when we speak in Bengali, we say rag kafi,
Oh, okay.
rag
okay.
bhairavi,
Mhm.
rag bhairavi.
Okay.
So that has a more emotional connection.
Mm,
So rag, I'll go with rag
Okay, cool.
because rag also means anger.
I think in
Oh,
So it's
Marathi
funny.
it also
I
means
didn't
anger.
know that.
Rag in Marathi,
Yeah, I think
Really?
it means anger as well. Same thing. Tal or tala?
tal.
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 Okay, and last one.
This is the most common.
Yeah, it's very common.
Everyone
Your
asks.
favorite rag right now? So not in general, just right now.
Saraswati.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
I'm saying that without actually having explored it enough.
Okay.
Wow.
But right now
some-
you're really feeling
Yeah,
Saraswati.
Saraswati.
Yeah, I think there's
Is
so
it a
much
sign
to
we
do.
are hearing
I
it
really
tomorrow?
love those combination of notes. Even like things like Vachaspati,
Yeah. Okay.
that kind of.
Yeah, because I guess like when you first start listening or when you first start studying the music, the Komalni and Tivrama combination in one rag is very unusual.
Yeah,
Like
Mm-hmm.
there aren't really many rags.
not
that have-
many.
Mm.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, combination with Tivrama and Komalni is like pretty much just those two.
Yeah.
Saraswati.
Yeah, and then you have the dha to sort of.
Yes, balance it, make it like
Yeah,
don't worry guys,
provides another side to the picture.
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow, interesting.
So now finally the last round, which is we'll watch something in the TV.
Sped up surely, right? Sped up.
Sped up.
Oh, it's fun.
Yeah. It's my favorite part. Yeah.
I got lost.
And then he continues that with.
And then he goes to sound.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Makes you
Yeah.
humble.
Yeah, that's the only reaction to it, really.
Amazing. Amazing.
And I mean, one thing to play at that speed,
Yeah.
but just the construction of his dance,
Yeah.
the choices that he makes at that speed, spontaneously, is that's even more impressive to me. And
Yeah.
doing that at that speed,
Yeah.
it's so aesthetically so pleasing.
Yeah. The tone as well. It's like quite like smooth but sparkly, you know, like
Yeah, and it crystal clear.
Yeah.
Also, you can
Yeah,
you can tell what the notes are.
Yeah. But also how it like crescendos, like he like especially when he was finishing it, then he was expanding in a small section and then making it longer and longer and longer, and
Yeah.
then finally going all the way till the
Right.
the high sat.
What's a crescendo?
Crescendo is like the build, like he builds it so well and then has the amazing
to rise.
the climax at the end. Yeah. And then finally the last like Ra strike. Does that have a name? I actually don't know.
Ooh.
The name of the strike of
I don't know actually.
The dish.
Yeah, the dush. It sounds like ch.
yeah, I don't know how you because da da like everything else you say it
Da, da,
yeah.
yeah.
So there's a sound, there's a specific
Yeah.
sound for it. Chick,
Yeah.
But for that one, do you just say chick but with an extra H or something?
Krang.
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 Oh yeah, maybe you could get away with that.
Chirang. Chirang.
We gotta ask.
It's called the chirang.
Okay,
Chirango.
interesting. we'll make like a Reddit forum or something. We'll ask a question.
Yeah.
Someone, let's come up. We'll vote for a sound and we'll make it a beautiful one. Yeah. No, but it was so amazing to have you, Snehesh. Thank you so
Oh,
much for
wow.
agreeing to
Oh,
come.
my
and-
pleasure. Thank
you
you so
know,
much
and-
for making it happen.
This
Ah.
is the first time I'm around like a musician, and I felt like I felt like more happy and joyful. Normally, when I was around like any other musicians, senior, anyone, I always felt like you are a human as well. You can be normal. You don't have to
Right.
wear a different, like I'm different when I'm a musician kind of feeling.
Mm.
But with you, I didn't feel at all. I felt like this is how it should be. The relationship.
Right.
I really loved it.
Yeah.
Enjoyed every single part
Oh,
of it.
I appreciate it, and I enjoyed every single
Yeah.
moment of it as well.
Glad you liked it. We can't wait for your performance tomorrow.
Performance, yeah. And
It's gonna
everyone
be-
has to look out after his Rag Bahar, Japtal. If I had to show it to outside people, that is what I would show as well.
If you
Like,
had to show
see-
music in your
Yeah,
customer.
yeah, that's exactly what I would show. Like,
Yeah.
hey, listen to this. And I did as well. I showed it to one of my friends,
Ah.
and he was like, "Oh wow, like it's so beautiful."
Ah.
That should be the
Yes.
That should be the standard.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's high praise for electronic tabla playing in the background.
I hopefully didn't know that.
I didn't even notice it actually because
No, it was I didn't even know. I was lost in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a sample I played on
Oh.
on Ableton. It's just, but it's still the same loop, right?
okay. Yeah.
It sounds like very monotonous.
Yeah.
Wow. No, but it was. Didn't even notice that it was electronic. Honestly, it sounded great. Like
Wow.
your attention is so on the sitar that you don't even notice. Yeah.
I believe it's your own composition.
Yeah, it's actually was. I took inspiration from a very famous composition we have in our gharana, the Senior Shahjahanpur gharana. It was composed by Pandit Radhika Mohan Maitra.
Is that the Dupalli composition?
Dupalli composition.
That's amazing.
So I kind of used that as an inspiration for the second part of the
Right.
I remember.
But it was one of those like on the spot. Let me just make something. So I kind of it took me maybe an hour or something to
Wow.
make that. It's sometimes just ideas they materialize very quickly and organically.
Yeah.
It's one of those. It's cool.
Wow. No, but it's amazing to have you once again.
Yeah.
And hopefully when you're in town again, like soon we'll be able to do another one and we can react to this
do more
interview
reaction
at that
videos.
time.
Yeah,
That'll be fun.
exactly. That'll be fun.
We'll just
A
do
meta interview.
exactly
A meta reaction.
We'll criticize our past selves or we'll praise our past selves. So future Sahaj, Aayush and Snehesh, be nice to us, okay?
Yeah.
We're still growing.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm still growing. You guys are so smart. I'm far behind. Pretty sad about it.
We're all stupid in the grand picture.
So
Yeah.
true.
That's what it is.
So true.
The
There are going to
grand
be
picture.
seniors out there looking at us like, oh my God.
These guys.
These guys think they know what they're
Chalo,
talking
riyaz
about.
karo, tum log kya kar- Anyways, thank you so much.
Yeah. Once again,
Thank
thank you so much. And yeah, it's been really nice to get to know you all through this
Yeah,
interview.
likewise.
All right. Nice. Cut there. Woo.
Why? You guys took the wind out of me.
Sorry about that.